Hey guys, welcome to another weekly forecast. So it's been an amazing week for me, and I hope it's been an amazing week for you as well. I've had really good trades this week, so I'm going to show you guys the trade recap, and then we'll come back and look at the DXY and look at gold and look at the opportunities we have coming up for next week. So this week started on the 1st of September. So on the 1st of September right here, I had my first position. So let's look at this buy position right here. So with this one, this was on a 1 minute time frame, and I know I've been talking a lot about trading on higher time frames like the hourly, the 4 hours and the 8 hours, but I had these opportunities on lower time frames, and the only pair I'm looking at currently is gold. So it gives me the ability to go and look at lower time frames as well. So I'm just going to walk you through this trade setup right here. So we had an impulsive move to the upside, we had a correction, there was a low here, we had another correction, and there was an inability of prices to make impulsive lows to the downside. So I had an entry right here, had a little bit of a drawdown thing, and price just took off to the upside. So I was expecting prices to take out this area right here. So if you look at the aftermath of this right here, it's the same thing. We had the entry, and this now on the 3 minute time frame. We had some period of consolidation, but eventually we got to the target point. So that was the first trade of the week for me on the 1st, and that was a good one. That was on Monday. Now let's look at the next one. So after the buy position, I had another sell. So I had a sell. So it was an impulse. We had a buys, I think, around this area, and we're close to here. So after the buys, we had this impulse correction. So at the time when I was looking at this is what I was expecting. I was expecting some kind of a channel thing, so I can take sales off of that again. So if you look at this piece right here, once we got to this area, I was expecting prices to then sell again to the downside. So simple structure thing, trend line in both directions, waiting for the rejections and trying to take prices to the downside. Now with this sales, it didn't play out as I was expecting. So if you look at this, that was a loss right there. So I took a loss on those sales, and let's look at the next position. So I came back now looking at this. This was on the 5 minute time frame. So after taking the loss, I looked at this on the 5 minute time frame. You have an impulse, you have a correction. You had an impulse, you had a correction. Price tried taking this area out, like taking out this lows, but it wasn't really convincing. So if you look at this lows right here, price didn't really take out this lows. So there was that inability, another push to the upside. So I got in on this a little bit late, but it was still a good trade. So let's look at the aftermath of this as well. So same thing, got in here, minor pullback, prices got here, moved my stops to break even, and I just let the prices roll all this way to the target point, which was this area right here. So that was a good trade as well, and that was on the 5 minute time frame right here. So I was trading on really lower time frames this week. That was it's crazy as well, and just being able to navigate between the hourly, the 4 hours, and then coming down to lower time frames, it's amazing. So when I started, it was a little bit difficult for me to go down to lower time frames, and I was really scared sometimes going to lower time frames because the speed is like crazy, the frequency is high as well. So all right, let's look at the next sell position. This was a loser right here. So we had price giving us this impulsive move to the downside. We had corrections. So I was looking at this as an inability for prices to move to the upside. Same thing, I was just expecting prices again to roll back to the downside, taking out this piece. So this was a loss, like this trade I lost on this one. So if you look at it right here, that was a loss. So I did attempt this sales, I think 2 times. So I reattempted the sales again right here. So went in again at an area like this, and this was another loss. So tried the sales 2 times, and that was a loss. And then let's look at the buy position. This right here is my best position for the week. So if you look at this position right here, we coming off of this impulse, and there's a correction. We had another impulse, and there was another correction right here. So I had an entry here, and I was expecting prices to test this highs. So if you remember, just a few hours ago, the NFP thing came out. So technically, this is what I was looking at, and then fundamentally just aligned with the news release thing. So when you look at the aftermath of this, so let's bring this out. This position right here is almost a 1:910, because if you look at the entry, you look at my stop loss, and the news release was around an area like this. And I don't trade during NFP news release and stuff like that, because I always have my positions early and then I wait for prices to do its thing. So we had a consolidation thing, we had the news release around an area like this, and that's something that's really important. So if you coming in, you want to get your entries really early, so you're having like a better price. And if you, let's say if you was waiting for the news event thing, you'll probably get in here, maybe your stop loss here or your stop loss here. So this same move, you only make, let's say 1:3, and it's not really good. So once I got in on this position right here, so it was an impulse correction, and I was expecting prices to take out these highs right here. Now, because I'm trading this on prop accounts, I couldn't close these positions during the news release because there's this news trading restriction thing. So I had to hold this a little bit longer, and that's why we had to push all the way to the upside. So normally I was expecting prices to take me out of this area right here. That was my target point. But because I couldn't close this during the news release thing, I had to wait a little bit. Then price just pushed all the way to the upside, taking out these highs, creating new highs as well. So that's it right there. This is my best position for the week right here. So that's it for the trade recap, guys. It's really been an amazing week for me. And let's look at the DXY, and we'll look at gold, and we'll see the positions we'll probably have for next week. Alright guys, so let's start with the DXY, and let's start on the weekly time frame. And before we look at the DXY, just a quick take. If you look at the position thing I had on gold, like the final buy position thing, so I'll bring this up. So you're looking at this position right here. So from this entry point, like from the entry point to where I close the trade, it's about 1:19 risk to reward. But I didn't go in with 1% on this position. So I only risked about 0.25 on this position. So this looks like a massive movement to the upside. But if you're risking like 0.25, that can give you about 4.7, like I think 4.75% on the account. So I didn't make 19% on that. I made 4.75. And I'm trading this on lower time frames as well. So that's on the 5-minute time frame. So I had to use lower risks on this time frames because the frequency is high, and there's a high possibility you can get stopped out and then you get another attempt and stuff like that. All right, cool. Let's continue with the DXY. So here's the DXY on the weekly time frame, and we've been looking at this structure for some time now. Now, if we zoom in, I think there's no need for us to go again, let's say, to zoom out, because it's the same thing we've been looking at: impulse correction. So looking at this on the weekly time frame, and as of today, the question I'm asking myself is, where is price at, and where is price most likely going to gravitate to? And I want to use trend lines and use my psychological levels to guide me while making this decision. So we're coming off of this impulsive move to the downside. We had a push up, so testing this psychological level of 100. And while looking at this, I was expecting, so normally based off of psychological levels, if you get a rejection on one psychological level, so you get a rejection at this point, you're expecting prices to come all the way to the downside to the next psychological level. But if you look at it, yeah, you can bring in the trend lines again, because the trend lines will tell you, all right, there's most likely going to be like this difficulty for prices to go through areas like this. So we have this trend line. Now this trend line is like a channel thing. So if I zoom out, you'll see the trend line. There's a channel in both directions like this. So while looking at this now, my main focus coming into next week is this piece of price action right here. So what is price doing, and what is price, or where is price most likely going to gravitate to? So the first thing is, if you look at this, there's lots of weeks here. There's a week, there's a week, there's a week, there's a week, and there's a week. So all of this. So what this tells me is we're having prices playing off of this trend line, and every time we try taking prices to the upside, there's this rejection from the sellers, and they keep taking prices to the downside. So just looking at this piece, if I zoom in on this piece right here, so cool, let's zoom in on this piece right here. So where is price most likely going to gravitate to? I'm looking at this piece right here, like this lows, where price had an inability to go lower. So price didn't really close below this point. So that's an area where I'm expecting prices to get to. And also I'm expecting prices to, let's say, take out this area. So those are the possible areas I'm looking at right now coming into next week. Now, I know the bigger picture thing, but coming into next week, I just want to look at areas where price is most likely going to gravitate to. So the first one is this area right here where price didn't really close below. We could come back and test these areas to see if there's a possibility for us to take prices higher. And then the next part is an area like this, the proper low thing. So we could see prices coming back to the downside, testing those lows. So I have this area and I have this area as well. Now there's another possibility. Just looking at this, if buyers come back and there's a rejection from the sellers, you could see prices coming back within this trend line, which is something that happened during the week. So we had prices coming here, there was a rejection, buyers taking prices up, prices came here, rejection taking prices up, same thing, rejection taking prices up, same rejection taking prices up. So at the time I was looking at this and I was like, all right, cool. If there's an inability for prices to go through this trend line, we might see price coming back, testing, and we could see prices gravitating again to this psychological level. So that didn't happen actually, because you had this rejection from the sellers and they were just dropping prices to the downside. So that's on the weekly time frame, bigger picture thing. So this drop can go all the way to the downside. So you could see price just dropping all the way to the downside. Now, it's very important you look at trend lines as well, because trend lines to tell you where price is most likely gonna react from. So if you look at this piece right here, we have this channel thing, so one to the upside and then one to the downside. So we've had a rejection at this area, rejection here, there's a rejection here. So if price starts coming again to the downside, in as much as I've shown you this area and this area, there's a high possibility you could see prices coming back to the downside and testing this trend line, and an inability for prices to go through the trend line, then you could see a rejection thing again to the upside. But with the way this is looking, it's really interesting how price is moving on this time frames right now. So that's on the weekly time frame. Let's look at the daily. Perfect. So there's not much you can look on the daily time frame. I'll show you what I'm looking at, by the way. So on the daily time frame, if I'm going with the most recent price action, which is this, so what I'm looking at right now, it's simply an impulse to the upside, then a correction. There's been another impulsive move to the upside all the way to the psychological level, and there's been a correction. Now with this correction, there's a beauty of it. So once you see the correction coming in, prices making lows, and further lows to the downside, but there's that inability. So you can put the channel thing, which is like the trend line again in both directions, and you see how price is rejecting within this area. So that's something I'm playing with on this lower time frame. So this on the daily time frame, if you step down to the 8-hour time frame, you have my channel movement thing right here. So if you look at the buy position I had today, so earlier today, and if you look at this piece of price action, it was a movement to the downside impulse thing, movement to the downside correction, movement to the downside correction. So once we had prices at this point, I knew there was a high possibility because of what price is doing. Channel right here, trend line in both directions. I knew there was a high possibility for prices to come back to the downside. So, and that was what was going to align with the fundamental news release thing. So this is what I'm looking at currently on the 8-hour time frame. So where is price most likely going to gravitate to? Now, because we're trading within this channel thing, and I don't even think there's like that need for us to go down to lower time frames. So you're looking at this on the 8-hour time frame. Where is price most likely going to gravitate to? If we're just playing within this structure right here, then we're looking at a bounce of within the structure. So we could see price coming down like lower, testing this trend line, a rejection, and you see prices coming back to the upside. So you need to bear in mind, yeah, when you look at the bigger picture thing, we're still playing within this structure, this impulsive move to the upside. So the bigger picture coming from the daily time frame, the 8 hours and the 4-hour time frame, we're still in the buyer's territory. So there's still a high possibility we could see price breaching out, testing this, let's say break, retest, and you see prices moving again to the upside. So that's a very big possibility because we haven't taken out this low, so we're still in the buyer's territory. So that's what I'm looking at. So maybe an inability for prices to go through this side or through this trend line, and we'll see prices moving again to the upside. So that's the possibility I'm looking at on the DXY. And let's see what the 4 hour says. So on the 4 hour time frame, it does the same thing. So I was looking at these lows. So we had these lows taken out, we had these lows taken out. So I was comparing the breaks to the downside, and it wasn't very impulsive. So we've taken out this area as well, making another low. So you had these lows taken out, correction to the upside, lows taken out, correction to the upside, lows taken out, correction to the upside. So we might see a similar reaction again. Lows have been taken out, we might see prices correcting again to the upside. So that's something I'm looking at. But on this time frame, let's see. Yeah, we can keep this on the 4 hour time frame. So with the DXY, I think I'll just pay attention to this time frame and see what happens. Now on the weekly time frame, it's a different picture, it's a different story. So if you look at this on the weekly time frame, there's a high possibility we might see prices moving again to the downside. So just drop into the downside right there. So you might see prices drop into the downside, testing this area, and even testing this trend line right here. Now if you stay on the 4 hour time frame, because you need to complete the movement on the 4 hour time frame, if you stay on the 4 hour time frame, you're looking at this, we're still within this buyer's territory thing. Sell, inability, sells, inability, sells, inability, sells, inability. So there's a high possibility then you might see prices moving to the upside, violation, break retesting, and you see price continuing again, it's moved to the upside. So that's a possibility I'm looking at when it comes to the DXY. So that's my analysis right there on the DXY. So an inability for us to see prices going through this area, then we can look for buying opportunities to the upside on the DXY. All right guys, so that's it on the DXY. Now let's look at gold, because this is very important. If this happens on the DXY, I'll show you guys what I'm looking at on gold as well. All right, let's look at gold. So gold has been making new highs, like it's making new highs and new highs and new highs, which is a good thing, because if you're looking just for long positions, I think you'll be killing the markets now. But let's look at this, because there's still a possibility for us to get a reversal, and I'll show you. So look at the DXY again. Look at what's happening on the DXY. We're coming off of this impulsive play. We have inability, and we're expecting prices to then move again to the upside. Now this is based on what's happening on the 4 hour time frame. So let's come back to gold. We're looking at this on the daily time frame. So we had this impulsive move to the upside, we had a correction, inability, and progressive higher lows. So we've taken out this area, and I remember, I think a month or two ago, we was looking at this entire picture, and our focus was we're expecting prices to do an impulsive play correction, and for us to see prices getting all the way to like 4,000. Now this is the same thing. We're still looking at the same piece of price action, and we're still expecting prices to get to 4,000. But you're looking at 4,000, it's a little bit far right now. So you need to look at lower time frames and look for trading opportunities. So on the daily time frame, we've taken out these highs, and there's one little principle thing. If you have an impulsive move to the upside and then you get a correction and price takes out the high, it's always important you look for a correction, or let's say some corrective move. So price has taken out these highs right here. We're coming off of this impulsive play, taking out these highs. We should expect at one point a correction to come in, and then another movement again to the upside. So if this is what you're looking on the daily time frame, then it makes it easy. So what's happening on the daily time frame? Where is price at, and where is price most likely going to gravitate to? We've taken out this psychological level, 3,500. We took out the previous high. So at this point, everybody is sat here looking at this and saying, oh, we're headed all the way to 4,000, which is correct, by the way. So it's very okay for us to say we're headed to 4,000, but we need to step down to lower time frames, put in those trend lines, put in those channels, and see where price is most likely going to reject from. So this is what we're looking on the daily time frame. It looks like we're just headed all the way to like 4,000. which is the next psychological level above 3500. So let's step this down to the 8-hour time frame, and here's where everything changes. So on the 8-hour time frame, this is what I'm looking at. So the first thing, we're within this bias territory which got taken out right here. So with an impulse and everything was just a correction with an inability of prices to move to the downside. Now if you put a simple channel thing, so you look at this as a correction, it's a correction, and we've seen prices headed to the upside. So where is price most likely going to gravitate to? Now if you look at this, yeah, there's this piece right here. So you have this psychological level of 4,000. Now there's a high possibility we're all headed to 4,000, but let's look at it, let's say from the short-term thing. So I'm going to clean this. If you're looking for short-term trading opportunities, where is price most likely going to gravitate to? Use your trend line thing. So there's a trend line right here, and there's another trend line right here, because you're looking at this right now as a channel. So you have an impulse, you have a correction. So where is price headed to? The next area right here, which is an area like this. So once we see prices tapping, let's say at this area right here, if we can get to this point, then I'm expecting some rejections and let's say a movement to the downside. So we could see price coming to the downside. It might be to an area like this. So that's it. That's a high possibility. You see sales coming all the way to the downside. Now, basic principle, if you're not trying to complicate the focus on anything, simple question: what is price doing? Where is price headed to? And what is likely going to happen? And this is the answer for me. It's an impulse and then it's a correction. And you're looking at the next impulsive move all the way to an area like this. An inability for prices to go through this area, then we're expecting a pullback to the downside. So that's what I'm looking at. And if you look at this, then you look at the DXY at the same time. Looking at what's happening on the DXY, inability for prices to go lower, inability for prices to go lower, inability for prices to go lower. So you might see on the DXY some correction coming in, then another movement again to the upside. If this happens, then I'm looking at gold. Same thing. You might see a minor push again to the upside, just so prices can tap at an area like this. Then you might see prices then reversing again to the downside. So this position right here is something I'm looking at. So if this happens, yeah, you might see this inability. So you're looking at this space. It's an impulse, it's a correction, it's an impulse, it's a correction. So once you see this inability, you see the inability for prices to go through this area, then you're looking for selling opportunities again to the downside. So same thing where you're expecting prices to get to an area like this. So that's my analysis right there on gold. And coming into next week, let's see if there's a possibility for us to get a push, an inability for prices to go higher, then we're taking prices all the way to the downside. Now this is on the 8-hour time frame, so I'm sure you guys one more thing. So let's see how long. I just want to see how long it took for prices to move from this area to where prices are right now. It's taken prices 37 days, so that's 37 days for prices to move to the upside. So if you're looking at this like the bigger picture thing, and you understand there's a possibility for prices to drop to the downside, it's going to take some time for this drop to happen. So you're looking at, let's say, 20 days. Now this depends, because the buys has been a corrective move, so the sales might take a lower time. So you're looking at about 15 days, 18 days, or like 20 days. So if we start getting this rejection and then the drop to the downside, it's going to take some time. Now the reason I'm saying this is because if you understand this is going to drop and it's going to take some time for it to drop to the downside, then you can move down to lower time frames. So let's say the 4-hour time frame, for example, and you start looking at this structures right here. So you're looking at the same thing. It's an impulse correction, it's an impulse correction, it's an impulse correction. So as you step down to lower time frames, you're looking for this reversal pattern. So let's say on the hourly time frame, you want to see an impulse, you want to see that inability for prices to go higher. So you just want to see price struggling to make new highs. Then you can look for the reversal thing and take prices again to the downside. So that's what I'm looking at. And let's see on the hourly time frame. So right here on the hourly time frame. So once I come in like next week, this is what I'm looking at. It's an impulse, it's a correction, it's an impulse, it's a correction. And I want to see this impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse, correction to the point where there's that inability for prices to make new highs. Then that will be an opportunity for me to take sales to the downside. So right now there's no position thing. Like, there's nothing that makes sense to me. Just looking at prices right now, there's nothing that makes sense to me. So let's keep this on the 8-hour time frame, keep this on a bigger time frame thing. So right here, so look at this, correction, lows, correction, lows, and price is moving again to the upside. So let's see if we can get a push to the upper trend line, an inability for prices to go through that area. Then we'll start looking for selling opportunities. So I think we might get lots of selling opportunities coming into next week and maybe the week after that. So that's my analysis right there. You look at the DXY again, look at this, inability for prices to go lower, expecting prices higher. Same thing right here, inability for prices to go higher, we're expecting a drop or a pullback to the downside. All right guys, that's my analysis, and I hope this made sense. I hope it helped you. And as usual, make sure you're patient, stay consistent, and above all, make sure you're praying. And that's it for me today. I'll see you during the next one. Yeah, bye for now.